No. Yeah, I like the first copies of things. This is the first copy of the Field Atlas. Actually, I remember unwrapping this, and this was the first one that was handed to me.
And you're going, wow.
Now it has the patina of many hundreds of hands.
Yes.
Lots of love there. But meant to with that sewn binding, it really holds its shape.
Well, that's one good thing about Heyday, yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, we're going. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. It's 12.
It's 12.
And all you folks that are listening and watching, thank you for hanging on or coming in whenever you have. Wow.
Yeah. What a journey.
What a journey. And we would think it would be hot today. It's July. And there's a strange irony about all the things we've been talking about. Everywhere else on Earth is burning, and we're as cool as ever.
We're as cool as ever. California.
Right here in this spot.
Very interesting moment.
It's a very interesting moment.
It's a very strange year.
Yeah.
It's so good across the state. With these low temperatures, the snow is staying in the mountains. It never flooded.
I read yesterday that people are skiing in Tahoe in July.
Yeah.
Although it's a little scary. It's a little too damp for comfort. But as I was telling you earlier, Obi, here on the mountain in this part of the state, it's not unusual in June and the first part of July to get this kind of fog in the summer.
Yeah.
So it's just that we've been getting a lot of it.
Yeah, elsewhere around the world, in fact. I read the other day that it was the hottest day ever on average across the planet.
The last 2 days, July 3rd broke a record, and then July 4th broke that record. Yes, the hottest day overall since people have recorded.
Across the planet.
Across the planet.
And a record, I understand, that will be broken again.
The headline is, "We are experiencing the coolest summer of our lives now." So, you know what? That brought me back. It really made me start thinking how important it is that we're talking about these things that we're talking about, place and purpose, and what do we do and how do we live in this world going forward with things so radically changed. But I do want to mention something. For all of you listening, Obi did this incredible, well, I really messed it all up with my scribble as I do everything, but he did this amazing
the mandala
of purpose and place of all the months and everything. And as I was going around the mandala, Obi, there's a couple things I stopped at, and because you had a headline, you took one of the quotes. There's a crow agreeing with us, that the story teaches us about life the way life teaches us about the story. And I want you to, I don't know if you caught this, but on December 5th, the story that you picked was Waterbug Walks Away with Copeland Creek.
Right.
And that was in December when we were still in the midst of a drought, wondering if we were going to get rain. Right. So we talked about that story, and the next month in January began these incredible atmospheric rivers and storms. The water returned like nobody's business. So, folks, you see, the stories have power. We remembered them, and it kind of overdid it, but better too much than not enough.
That's right. Sacred time is right now.
Sacred time is right now. I saw this. I was going to say, I'm going to point this out to Obi. I don't know if he caught it.
I didn't. I like that. Emergent phenomena can be realized. Gosh, is there a connection somehow between the story that we're talking about today, the final story and how a mountain was made, is Pretty Woman latches her necklace.
Right.
Okay, the final one in this book. We've gone through 8 stories. There's a lot more stories than that in
That's about half of them. I think there's 16. Yeah.
Oh, okay, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now this story is perfect to end our year 1 journey on. This really sums up so many of the themes that we've explored in the last 11 episodes.
You said that, and I hadn't gone over the story, and I trusted you, Obi. And I said, well, he must be right, but I better go back and read it. And you're absolutely right. I thought, oh my goodness, all of these themes about passion getting in the way, greed, forgetting who we are, forgetting place, and that's what that woman did. And as a consequence, she was isolated and alone from family and friends and the man that she wanted, that she had been pursuing from the first story, and all the consequences of selfishness, blindness, all of these things. We saw her suffering like a madness, trying to find these rocks and exploiting the other animals to get what she wanted. And all she did was get further and further from the animals and from her own people and from herself, her own power.
That's right.
And all that was in that story. And I'm going, wow, Obi was right, and it was a pretty good story. Yeah.
It's a great story. It's a great story, and I think we should start at the beginning. If we can, because I think what I'd like to do here in the final episode of year 1, we've been calling it season 1, but really it's year 1. We had 4 seasons.
4 seasons, yeah.
Right. We didn't have much of a fall. It felt like we sort of, in the last months of 2022, we went from summer straight into winter.
We didn't have much spring for that matter.
We didn't have much spring for that matter, too.
So maybe you're right. Your instinct season was pretty wet. The whole episode's been wet.
That's right. It's still nice and moist here.
And it's ending that way.
There's some tree frogs over here hopping around. I was chasing them around.
There's so many tree frogs here right now, which I guess because of the water, they were able to hatch. But they're around and they're beautiful, multicolored.
That's right. And you have beautiful little spiders here, little fuzzy spiders. I don't know what species they are, but they're about the same size as the frogs, about the size of a quarter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was just following one here on the ground. Anyway, we welcome them, all of our kin. Okay, so this story. You've closed this book with the pretty woman latches her necklace. It takes place after the world is fixed.
Yes.
Right. So it's fixed, and I love there again is that word that means 2 things. Right.
Yeah.
Repaired.
Yeah.
And also like static. These are people now. No longer are the animals people.
Fixed in the sense of the present world fixed as we know it, as we're living here as humans, not animals. That binary, if you will, the separation where there's animals versus humans and that kind of thing.
Right. But they don't have names.
Yeah.
Why is that?
The people?
The people. We have pretty woman. We have pretty woman's father.
Because we end...
The wise women. The handsome man.
We end right where all this new world starts.
I see.
And so the naming of the individuals hasn't started. It will, as you'll see, happen in the Forgetters. They have names. They're and nationalities. Nations have come up. We've got.
Are you talking about your next book right
now?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. The Forgetters. By the way, and I wasn't even thinking about it. At the end, remember, one of the wise women says the Forgetters will be here and will need these stories.
Right.
There's kind of a prophetic thing there, and it'll be a noisy
nice segue.
And I like the description that was in there. It'll be a noisy, crowded world.
Yeah. A noisy, crowded world.
Which is what we're today.
Yeah. Well, I'm reading this story. It's about this pretty woman. This is a coming of age story? This is a threshold story? Or
yes,
it can be read that way?
It can be read that way.
Awakening to her own power.
To her own power.
And you have this relationship with this word pretty.
Yeah.
And it seems to me like there's this evolution from pretty towards beauty, which are 2 very different states.
Towards heart.
Yeah. So this pretty woman, who is the protagonist of the story, is young. She's sort of in love with the handsome boy from the other village down the creek. And her father starts the story with, remember that your true beauty is inside. Right. And I believe the father, I think you mentioned that he's the nephew of the chief.
Yes, he
Wouldn't
is.
that make him Chicken Hawk?
Yeah, yes, Chicken Hawk. Yes. Wow, you're getting, Obi, you're getting to be a good Indian. You're doing genealogies well.
Well, I would love to work on that.
Yeah.
Work on some sort of portrait of the tribe that you described, the people.
Yes, because as they become the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to just take a moment to talk about pretty, because pretty is, I use it somewhat ironically here, because she's already beautiful or pretty enough, and her prettiness is ultimately, as you say, moves to beauty, moves to heart. It's what's inside her, and what's inside her is the knowledge and wonder of the place she comes from. And she forgets all that.
Right. And the place, the transmission of the power of the place is always in both the story and the song.
Yes.
As it relates to the object of the rocks.
Yes.
Ultimately, the thing that her father gives her, by which she will be known, as a person from a good place with good people who tell good stories.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Is through this necklace.
It's through this necklace.
Right.
Yes.
So we've seen this before in other stories, where we have it's either coyotes' secret things, or it's power stones. We've seen the rain stones, for example, in when Rain finds her home in the sky, the January story from episode 6, right? So we see this relationship between the object and the power that is brought forth. The power is summoned almost. The power is called into agency through the song, through the story. She believes her first sort of foray into folly is believing that she can do better.
Yeah.
And here she finds some other pretty rocks.
Yeah.
Along the
well,
peak
it's also that she thinks
Sonoma
she
Mountain
needs to do better, that what she has isn't enough.
What she has isn't enough. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now we start to get into sort of her sort of tragic elements of her character. I almost, as I was reading this, thinking like there's an aspect of this story that feels like Hamlet to me from Ophelia's perspective.
That's interesting. You had Prometheus for becoming Rattlesnake becoming Prometheus, but that's great. You would have been a great English major. You missed your calling, Obi. Well, you could write papers on these things.
I can.
Yes.
and there's something about Ophelia's obsession and her madness that is reflected in Pretty Woman here.
Yes.
Because what happens is she gets these stones.
Yes.
She becomes obsessed with these stones, because what happens is the stones get carried away in a flood down Copeland Creek.
Yeah.
And she spends, and this is interesting because this is an interesting and important detail, is that she spends the next 10 years looking for them.
Yeah.
Looking for the stones in the creek. It's the first time you mention historical time like that.
Yes.
In the book.
Yes.
Like now time is really unfolding.
Yes.
And I'm thinking like,
and you're locked in time.
You're locked in time. And she's locked into
and
her
it
mind.
becomes a prison that she's locked in, that she's not even aware.
She's not even aware. Her father's aware.
Think of Ophelia washing her hands.
Yeah.
At the last image we have of her obsessed, trying to cleanse herself of what she's done. And she can't. Yeah, that obsession. Yeah.
Right. Washing her hands, that'd be Lady Macbeth.
I mean, Lady Macbeth.
Yeah,
I'm
out damn
Lady
spot. Yeah,
yes,
Ophelia commits suicide.
Yeah, Ophelia commits suicide. This woman doesn't.
She drowns herself. So there's that image of water there too.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So this is Ophelia, if Ophelia had came from a good place with good people telling good stories.
And had a good story and a father to rely on.
Yeah. Because her father finally comes and gets her.
And he keeps coming back.
He keeps coming back looking for her. Now, she spends 10 years, and I think what has happened over those 10 years?
Yeah.
She's a girl.
Yeah.
After those 10 years, I don't know, but it seems to me like that's she doesn't become a mother in this story.
No.
No. But there seems to be precedent for that in the four wise women.
Yeah.
Wise women, because the father goes to the four wise women who counsel the chief.
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about last episode, where the chief is the assistant to the dreamers.
To the wise women, the dreamers.
Right. So the wise women are the dreamers. Would you
Yes,
say?
yeah, they're the ones that are all wise and have the visions, live in that world and understand that world of vision, of this whole non-binary world and so forth.
Right,
Uh,
the
yeah.
non-binary. So her father goes to the wise women who may or may not be mothers themselves.
Yes.
Who have entered this post-motherhood time.
Yes.
In their own,
Yeah.
womanness. I think it's important that they're women.
And it was always in traditional society here that we had that, where the women, the four or more wise women would advise. But what's wonderful about the father? He gives the daughter advice, but he also is wise enough to know that he needs advice. When he needs advice and doesn't know what to do, instead of him becoming obsessed, he's the opposite of her. He goes to listen to somebody else.
Right.
He knows he needs
that's
to.
very much. He's very loyal. He's very humble. And these are traits that Chicken Hawk, that Cooper's Hawk has demonstrated before in his service to the chief, for example.
Yeah.
In Coyote building his costume, which I guess was the one. Did we just? That was
a while back.
While back, was it? Yeah. No. Well, in Coyote Creates People, episode 7 from February, and then Coyote creates a costume fit for a chief. Which
there you go.
Last episode, June.
Okay.
Episode 11, right? And so we've got this loyal, humble father figure saving his daughter finally from that obsessive time in her life. She acknowledges that the necklace has power. She puts it in her pocket, interestingly, to go visit the boy that she's crazy about down in Katati.
Right.
And she has it in her pocket as if like she still has a lot of questions. It's an interesting experiment for her to do this.
But she's still kind of embarrassed. She doesn't trust in it yet.
Right. She doesn't trust it. She doesn't show it off. She doesn't show pride in this. Because remember, the necklace is the symbol of the stories linked together.
And the songs all linked together, how the world is all linked together. The village, the mountains, everything's linked together, where she comes from. But she's lost. She doesn't understand that, or she's forgotten it, obviously, in her obsession for what she's done. And she still doesn't trust in it. She kind of hides it. Like if you and I knew something was right, but we were embarrassed that people might laugh at us.
Right. Well, she thinks that she also has this like inappropriate relationship to the power of the necklace itself.
Yes.
Right. She thinks that it's going to quote unquote work
from her
pocket.
What she wants.
Get her what she wants.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the only reason she's interested in it at this point.
And as we established in our analysis of previous stories, that true power is not about that. True power is insight into the accord of the world.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's where.
Well said. Yes.
Where you deviate from excess. Anything in excess becomes poison. There's some relationship there between power and poison, as if power can become poison.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Like her desire, what she wants, is this handsome boy.
These kinds of powers that blind us to the larger world and the consequences of our desires will always get us and the world in trouble. It'll change things. Yeah.
Interestingly though, that the handsome boy, whatever he's up to, what he's up to is just making a basket.
Yeah.
And he says later he has no idea why he's making this beautiful basket.
But something was driving him.
But she comes in, right, with the necklace in her pocket, and he still doesn't see her. She destroys the necklace after that, smashes it into a million
She's mad
pieces.
because she didn't do what she wanted it to do.
Right. It didn't seem to work.
Like, heck with this, I'll just destroy things.
Right.
And in a way, remember that necklace has the stories and songs of the mountain, all the good stuff. And so what she does when they don't work, she destroys it.
Right.
When she doesn't get what she wants from it. And isn't that in some way emblematic of so much of what's gone on in the world today.
Right.
You know, but then what's interesting, Obi, is she goes through this thing and she gets upset and she goes back. Her father comes and she finally starts, when she starts putting it back together piece by piece, what gets to her, the first feeling she has is lonesomeness. She realizes how lonesome she has been in this obsession.
Right.
And that lonesomeness, that isolation from the world and her father is what keeps her going and makes her realize the beauty that she has within, which is about that connectedness to everything.
The connectedness, the community.
The community of her family and the world, the nature, the world around her, all of life.
The community is held in these stories.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
The agent that binds.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's the symbol of the latch.
Yes, yes.
That brings the necklace together.
Right.
That completes the circle.
Yes, yeah.
The latch, it's another interesting double meaning of that word there. You know, that connects but also opens.
Opens, yes.
You know, the ravens are really making some
I've got to get to work on my next stories. They're bothering me. Yes. Yeah, I've never had them so, or we're doing something good. They're very...
Right. But then one of the wise women says to her, like so there's this moment of this redemptive arc that she's on as a character here.
Yeah.
Pretty woman is now realizing that how lonesome she is. And the wise women say, well, this is the work you needed to do to become a storyteller.
Right.
Now, is a storyteller a dreamer?
A storyteller can be anybody. It can be you or me. And it's the great thing that we have as humans, is language and the ability to tell stories. It's our ultimate power. Stories can build an atomic bomb, they can kill 6 million Jews, or they can restore the landscape.
Right.
So stories are our ultimate power, and everything emanates from them. So what are we going to do with them? But anybody can be a story, and all of us are somewhere or other believers in them. Mm-hmm. Even if we don't want to say we believe in anything, that becomes a story in and of itself, right?
There is great power. There is great poison in stories. It's what we have.
Yeah, warning, teaching,
potentially the only thing we have.
It's the only thing we have. Another thing, just to go off a little bit before we forget, Obi, that I looked at your notes. The question about death that came up, I think it was a few episodes back. Humans are, as far as I know, and I don't want to speak for other species, but we're the only ones that are very conscious and aware of death. But what that should do is make us appreciate how wonderful and what an opportunity life is. Mm-hmm. And boy, in our obsessions and the beauty around us, in our obsessions for things or fear or whatever is going on, we forget that. Mm-hmm. We forget, and death becomes us. Death is, we're killing and all of this sort of thing, and the wars and the things that are going on today. And life is so precious. And death, because we are conscious and we tell stories, we're also conscious that we're going to end. I don't think other animals are conscious of their end, right? We can be. And as a result, we can be reminded, and we talked about this somewhat in the episode a few episodes back, of how glorious and what a wonderful gift this life is, and therefore the need we must have to take care of it, to push it forward.
I think that's beautifully put. I wonder, Greg, if we're the only ones aware of it, or we're the only ones who buy into the illusion of it.
Well,
that could be too.
Thank you. Nuance beautifully, Obi. Yes, I mean, because ultimately, if we're so involved in life, there is no death. There is no death when we're so much involved in the world around us, right? But
I said something on my Instagram yesterday that got a response. I got an email from somebody, and so I'd like to, and this plugs in exactly to what this discussion is, and I think that there's something philosophical that needs to be unpacked about the nature of these stories in the relationship between humans and animals, but also as an ecologist thinking about relations, common experience as a vertebral organism, terrestrial, marine, amphibious, whatever it is.
Yes.
As I said, humanity seems to be not exclusive to humans. Let me explain. Pathos and suffering as symptomatic of attentive consciousness among the shared experience of terrestrial, marine, or amphibious vertebrates may be ubiquitous. Everybody has it. There may be nothing to life at all but the experience of consciousness. Certainly humans have never known anything but consciousness itself. All we have is consciousness.
Yes.
Why would it be any different elsewhere in the biosphere?
Well, that's you're absolute. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't, as I prefaced my own statement about death, as I wouldn't presume to speak for other species or birds. But if they're also
You do. The stories do.
the stories do, yes. But when I think about what you're saying here, Obi, and what your thought is that everything suffers, but I want to think about it something else. The thing that connects us is all animals, everything that we know wants to love, protect itself, and reproduce.
Right.
It's all shared. That's
Right.
where we're on common ground with all of life.
Right.
And we manifest it, romanticize it up in our stories. We do whatever, but we're still doing everything else.
Because stories are all we have.
Yes, the birds. Notice, why are birds
I'm
singing
not talking
in
about
this?
intelligence.
No,
Right.
No, I'm
Yeah.
talking about those basic things of taking care of life so that it goes on.
That's right.
And everything around us, these flowers right here, are doing that in order that they can then have seeds so they go on.
Yeah.
And they're taking care of each other in communities. Animals protect each other. A mother deer, a doe, every birds protect their young. Our humans,
Right.
we're not different.
Right.
We're doing the same things.
Right.
And that's where we're connected. Why do birds sing so much in the spring? They're trying to get a mate. They're trying to get it on. They're trying to, it's like us young kids going to a club, right?
And they're establishing territory.
They're establishing
relationships.
territory. Yes.
They have, different bird species have very different sexual relationships, kin selection.
Courting. They have very different courting styles.
Absolutely.
But everything courts.
Everything
courts.
Everything courts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every mother seeks to protect.
Right. I mean, you say explicitly these stories call out again and again when animals were people.
Yeah.
The inverse of that might certainly be true too.
Yes.
I mean, of course it is. People are animals too. We have a excellent knack at making things very complicated.
Yes.
Yeah. and thus our current
and then we need
domination of the biosphere.
And then we need explanations about why things are complicated because we made it that way.
And that's the invention of fiction.
Yes.
The invention of money.
Yeah.
The invention of economies.
Yeah.
The invention
Nation
of
states.
Modern society. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nation states. All of that stuff. Right.
Yeah.
But we get back to the point, and the wise woman points it out to the pretty girl explicitly when she says, and this is what she said earlier in our conversation today, when she puts it another way. She says, remember the stories, or the stories you will forget. If you forget the stories will forget you.
Yes.
And that's
that
another
goes
way
back
of saying
a lot of what you're saying right there. It's the same thing.
Right.
Yes.
The stories
That
will
those
forget
stories will forget you.
you.
Just like the earth. If you forget the earth, it'll forget you, which is what's happening right now for a lot of us. And there'll be a lot of sacrifice. But the other thing, remember, she says, how am I going to find that latch, that final thing that's going to make me wear this? And how can I, now that I've learned my lessons, what do I do? And the fourth wise woman says to her, you have it in you. You know the answer. And because she remembers the songs and who on the mountain has that great vision but the eagle, she immediately starts singing the eagle song, which gives her the vision to find the latch, right? So again, what happens in that story is ultimately she has to remember the stories, or in this case also the song, that will enable her to survive and do what she needs to do, which is tell stories.
It's a brilliant bridging metaphor, the vision of the eagle. The song comes in. Every story has a song in how.
Well, you know, among our local Pomo and Coast Miwok Indian doctors, they all had eagle songs. And once I asked Mabel McKay, I said, you know, why an eagle song? And she said, there are war songs. And I said, wait a minute, war song? And she said, yes, because when we doctor, she said the eagle, for us, war is about the battle between truth and falsehood. And the eagle will see what's true and what's false, and we call upon that eagle as we heal to see what's true and what's false and rely on its vision.
It's beautiful.
So, and I said, oh, that makes sense. And in southwestern Pomo, the word for eagle is kilak, and so there, you know, we have an eagle song that Mrs. Parrish left us, so it's whenever you're having trouble, or you're going to go into a battle, or you're going to have a hard time, don't use the war song for physical stuff. Use it to make sure you continue to sort out what's in front of you that's false versus what's true. Yeah.
That's powerful medicine for today.
Yeah. And then again, that's it. Who else and I say who, not what, but who else flies so high and sees so well? But an eagle, right? And again, I want to go back to what you were saying earlier about the inverse being true of the time when all the animals are still people. We have to go back now to a time where at least we acknowledge that the animals are people, right? We have to have that much respect now.
Yeah. I work under the idea with what has been presented to me in my heart, in my investigations, in my book writing, in my painting, in my walking, in my endeavoring to be ever more from this place.
Yeah.
I sense, and as there is now legal precedent in some countries around the planet, to even make non-biological entities into something approximating personhood in a legal parameter somehow. The personhood of rivers, say, watersheds, watercourses, the rights of rivers to be clean. There is a river sustaining your life right now. It might not be close. It might be very far away, as is engineered hydrology across the state of California. But there is a river taking care and sustaining your life right now, and honoring that river as a personhood holding member of the community, I think, is a clear next step in this forward paradigm.
It's the same kind of thing we've always been saying here, Obi.
That's right.
That the river has a power. It has songs, like the birds, like everything else here has power and song, and you violate it, and it will, if not violate you itself, it will forget you and quit providing for you.
Right.
So it is a living entity, totally necessary to your survival, whether you like it or not.
That's right.
You know, so if we can be translators, if we can hear that song and what it's doing and translate to our legal structures or whatever we have
Sure.
to protect that and remind people of that, whatever it takes. So now we are in a position to be translators. And I love the idea of suing for the river. Let's start suing for the birds. Let's start suing for everything. Because if nothing else, it'll generate the idea that these things have voices.
Yeah.
And they always have. We just forgot to listen, like the woman in the story.
That's right.
Remember, she was using all those animals to get what she wanted. She was hired all those other people, if you will, to do work for her. When she didn't get what she wanted, she just would make them keep working till they were going to be worked to death, and they left her.
Right.
And then she just gets mad, and she doesn't want to talk to them.
Right.
So we are in a position now, as she was, to once again talk to these things or hear them. And if we hear them, we have to translate to our political structures what they're saying to us, what we need from them. And they're saying to us, if you don't take care of me, I can't take care of you. That's what it comes down to. And we've always understood that. That's ancient knowledge.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no invention. There's just remembering.
It's remembering.
Right
on, Obi, as they say. Yeah.
I truly believe that this needle can be threaded, right? Like we can get through this threshold.
I wrote something to that effect because I know this comes up in discussions about this all the time here and with your friends and my friends. Why do we keep going, and what do we do when things look so dour and all of this? I kept thinking, we have to live for today while living for the future. You live today living for the future, but you must continue to live for today, because and the more problems there are, Obi, the more opportunity to do something. To translate, if you will, to translate. And the work that you've done and that so many of my friends are doing is doing that. If I can, I just want to quote Gregory Bateson once again.
Yes.
Who, by the way, was a board of regent, or on the board of UC Board of Regents. Jerry Brown put him on. And, I just got put on the Board of Regents, the UC Board of Regents.
I do know that. Congratulations.
But anyway, so I was only happy. I was happy for many reasons. So well
deserved, my friend.
I was very happy for many reasons, but most of all to be where Gregory Bateson was. But in any event, he said, if we're all lemmings going over a cliff, we still have two choices. We can walk with all the lemmings and drop off, or we can scream as we go and say, hey, there's another way. Obi, you, me, my friends, we're screamers. And all of you listening, keep screaming.
Keep screaming.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the past 12 hours that we've sat here over the past 12 months.
We've been screaming.
We've been screaming. We've been screaming.
Yeah.
But it's the conversation I've always wanted to have, Greg. I'm so grateful for this time that we have unpacked. I feel like what we've done is we've laid some foundation for our discussions in year 2. Year 2 is now upon us, and we're going to keep going. Are you excited about year 2?
I'm excited, really excited about year 2. But I want to tell you, Obi, and you're a scientist, so I'm going to be real honest and candid. These conversations have been medicine for me. They've kept awake all those reasons and those things that motivate me to keep doing what I'm doing. Because a lot of it, when you get into it, the politics that I get involved in, the business, a casino of all things that I get involved with, it's very easy to forget how and why I want to use those things to transform the world around me, which all sounds antithetical, but I think we can do it, just as you said. And so these conversations awaken in me the memories, the seeds, and you as a scientist have done that in our conversation. So I thank you. This hour has been medicine for me. It's doctoring for me. It's reminding me to get up. It's been a song from Mabel. It reminds me of the songs. So, Obi, thank you. And to think that we're going to do this one more year, and we're going to talk with other really wonderful, fascinating people who are also so concerned with what we're doing.
I think that's a big announcement. I don't think we've told anybody
my God.
yet that we're having guests.
Oh,
No, it's okay. We're talking about it now.
Hey, everybody,
Yeah,
Obi and everybody listening, Greg cannot keep a secret. As my aunt always says, oh, here comes Greg. Oh, here comes Greg. Don't say anything you don't want to end up in a book.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, but I just wanted to point out that I don't think we've talked about this on air, that we are actually having guests next year. We might have talked about it.
Did we?
I don't think so, but now we're formally announcing it.
Okay, I just opened my mouth. So, Obi, tell people about what we're going to do.
Oh, yeah, we just did, right? We're going to keep it very informal, but there will be a third chair here next year.
Yeah.
We're going to stick to the theme underneath these ancient bay laurel trees of watching the world unfold around us, watching the mountain dance around us.
This wonderful mandala.
That's
with
right.
This place. We're
going to
be
right there
here,
in the middle.
But we're going to keep spinning.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So next month, August 2023, our first guest is going to be my publisher and your publisher, Steve Wasserman himself.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah. That's going to be a
editor
wonderful.
from New York.
Yeah.
Editor at LA Times. Publishing news from native California.
Yeah.
And so many things in line with what we're doing.
Right. Right. So he'll be our first guest. We're going to be running through the fall catalog from Heyday. And talking about the plurality of what they're publishing now and what that vision is, what the book industry is, what's happening in the book industry right now. Really? What is I'm sure we're going to get into the philosophy of books in general.
Yes.
As a modern
readers,
phenomenon.
What's going on?
What's
and
going
who's
on with
reading what? And,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that we're gonna start with that. That'll be in August. And I can announce the next two guests after Steve as well. So we're gonna have Steve in August, and then in September we're gonna have the man himself, Wade Crowfoot.
Oh wow!
Who is the California State Secretary of Natural Resources.
My friends and we keep missing each other, but my friends keep wanting me to meet him, and we've been wanting to get together. And Obi, wow, how great!
Yeah.
Hello, Wade. You're on right here in Sonoma Mountain. Good
right.
place to meet you.
So he's coming down to hang out with us for a little bit, and we're going to talk about the state's very ambitious conservation goals. We're also going to talk about the state of fire, the state of water, all of these incredibly relevant policy decisions and how they tie into inclusivity and representation and how did you put it? Living for today with an eye on
tomorrow.
Yeah. That's right. And then lastly, I'll just say our third guest in October, and this one is such a pleasure to announce, that we will have the author and activist Rebecca Solnit.
I'm excited. Yeah. I hope these are wonderful, influential people that are doing the serious work that we've all been talking about.
The serious work that we will all be talking. Yeah. I mean,
but also fun work, not just serious. There's a lot of laughter.
That's great. And so next month I'll be announcing 3 more guests.
Wow. Okay.
And we're just going to keep going. Same time, first Thursday of every month, 10 a.m. Pacific time. You can go to placeandpurpose.live. And watch our live conversations. You can go there and register for signed copies of our books too. We have a winner this week that I'm happy to announce right now. And that winner...
So this is kind of Obi, I was listening to you. I love this. We've transformed television. We say what they used to say on television.
Yeah.
Same time, same place.
Same time, same place. That's right.
But we're in nature doing it.
It's anywhere you want to be. That's right. Yeah. So Barbara Ducey, I hope I spelled that right. Ducey from Chico, California is today's winner of a signed copy of your book, Becoming Story or How a Mountain Was Made. I can't remember which book we're giving away.
I don't remember.
And a copy of my book, The Coast of California.
I think Becoming Story.
Becoming Story too.
Yes.
And so that's another thing that we're going to be exploring in season 2. And we're going to get these in front of our guests. In addition to having like a quasi interview happening with our guests, we're going to open the discussion with the next evolution from how a mountain was made. And what is your most recently published book of stories called Becoming Story?
Becoming
And
Stories.
these are very personal. A lot of first person.
Yeah,
right?
yes.
Stories told from the first person, aren't they?
Told us about my own experience with the landscape, which becomes a story, my story, so in a way. So, or our story, but how I negotiate time and place and purpose and all these things.
Yes.
All the things we talk about, Obi.
That's right. All the things we talk about. I think that that is going to lead us then into next spring when your next book comes out, Forgetters Stories.
The Forgetters, yes.
The Forgetters Stories. It felt really good to make those announcements. I'm really excited.
Really well.
I'm really excited about next year.
I could tell. And Obi, thank you. Obi's doing the hard work of putting the speakers together, producing the work, and I'm just sitting here looking. It's hard
to
call it
work. It's hard to call it work. I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there looking at the trees with you, my friend, for sure. Now we've got to finish. Pretty Woman latches her necklace.
Okay.
Because she now, as part of her redemption from her self-obsession, which is really the idea that she could do better with these stones that she has lost now in the river, which she was always going to lose. Yeah. I think it's one sentence. It's a throwaway sentence in the story that she loses the rocks, as if like that was always going to happen.
Yeah.
Now she comes down from the mountain back to the village. She's forgotten about the boy. Her object of desire evaporates. It's not about the boy anymore. It's about
her obsession anymore.
Her obsession, right?
Which has blinded her.
Right. And of course, what she sees then, when the boy finally sees her, and sees what the necklace and her eagle song represent, here's her song coming. He presents her with the basket that he's been making this whole time. And from this basket is it's really the only like sort of quasi-magical thing. Or I guess there's something that happens in all of these stories, this emergent thing that happens, from the spirit world of nature into the manifest world of history. And that is the birth of the rainbow.
Yes.
That comes now. She is equipped with her own power.
Yes.
With her own song.
Yeah.
With this latched necklace of stories, with her companion, the basket making
guy. Yeah.
And you will know her coming by the coming of the rainbow.
Yeah.
The reminder, the magic that is the united color field that is rainbow.
And the whole thing about that too is the things in nature, the things we see that make us wonder. And wonder is what the first time a human wondered about something, their response was a story.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so you wonder about these things. But she also found with what had happened to her and what she did wrong, it became the method for her life story, but also her life's work to tell stories. She forgot them and suffered as a result, and now she's doctoring the world with them.
And what we have then, is the stories. And as we pull these stories apart like so much taffy, and we build these homes to live in out of the stories that we tell, I am so proud to have walked this path with you over this year, Greg, and as you've acknowledged my vocation in this world as one from a scientific people. I feel incredibly a deep sense of gratitude and reciprocation that my heart has been opened this year in a way that I was not expecting, towards a world of symbols that feel as real to me as the sun and the moon. When Coyote threw his sons into the sky, we went over that story in
that's the one about death. Yes,
episode 9
Yes,
in
yes.
April. Coyote throws his sons in the sky. When he kills his sons by throwing them up in the sky, one becomes the moon, one becomes the sun in this transformative process. Death enters the world in the same moment that the earth and that the sun and the moon are
created.
created,
Yeah.
are transformed into being.
Yeah.
Which is not unlike my own process this year.
Yeah.
Creatively.
Wow. Yeah.
Creatively. There's an awakening here that is happening, certainly. And you know, there's a tagline developing between you and I as we wrap up today's episode. It's like but we've only just begun to talk. We have so much more to say on
this.
There's
a pop song that goes like that, but yes.
Of course.
But Obi, you know, for me, this discussion, if I'm arrogant enough to assume that I am somehow representing the indigenous world, and let's say you're the science world, the ways in which our conversations have brought those worlds together and interrelated them, connected them, is I think what needs to happen. If I again can be as arrogant to say this, these types of things that we need to be talking about, these discussions we need to be having, and also what the world needs to be doing to begin to address the problems that we have. We can't go back to the ancient world. We need science, and science in turn needs to be informed by the ancient world. And I think this coming together is so important and becomes almost a blueprint for going forward. If I can be arrogant enough to, as I always say, to assume that somebody wants to listen to what I'm talking about.
I would hope so. I think that we are weeding it out, this overlapping space between, I think, what is most aptly described as perhaps this polarity, however false, between an indigenous mindset and a colonizing
however
mindset.
False. Thank you for saying that.
Right, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they both certainly exist in
their stories, and they're now coming to a point where they're doing and saying the same things.
Right. How do I be more from this place? How do I help take care of my people, take care of this place?
That's right. Yeah.
By doing one, I can do the other.
Right. Yeah.
Working things out for myself.
We need both.
Right. I'm not an expert in traditional ecological knowledge. I'm not an expert in scientific innovation. I'm not an expert on anything. What I am is in conversation with you and soon to be our guest about the emergence of this energy that feels like remembering, like California remembering itself.
Yeah.
These systems of resiliency rooted in the understanding and acknowledgement of biodiversity and ecological services written across the landscape that we have to be very sensitive to going forward as a united citizenry.
Yeah, and I think I never like the term expert, because it assumes you know it all, an overall knowledge. You've reached a pinnacle.
Right.
There's no pinnacle. There's only, as you were just said, Obi, dialogue.
Yeah.
Continued dialogue with one another, with the world around us. And I'm going to kind of think about what the poet E. Cummings said. The better answer asks the bigger question.
That's a great one. That's
Isn't
a great
it?
one. Well, I'm really looking forward to talking about more poetry in the year to come too. We've got some poets on the horizon too.
Yes.
I was reading today in the new just in the new issue of News from Native California that they're looking for. There is a residency with this magazine that's published by Heyday.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about this next month with Steve too. But they're looking for a new resident for the, what did they call it? It's the Grayton.
Yes. Yes.
I'm looking for it here now. I don't have the page.
Doesn't Heyday do beautiful work? I'm so proud.
They
Their book
so-
covers, everything they do is
This is
so
such
nice.
a gorgeous magazine. I
Yeah.
encourage all of our
Yeah.
listeners and our readers to subscribe. Anyone and everyone should and can subscribe. But they're looking for a new. I can't find it. I'll post it on my social
Yeah.
social media.
Okay.
But News from Native California.
It's an intern to work on, I believe, on the magazine for them. A
Right.
student or whatever. Yes, and
Yeah.
we've funded that.
Yes, you did.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's called the Grayton Resident or whatever. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that plug out there for that magazine. And I think that with that we're gonna close down year one, my friend.
Can you believe it? The year, where did it go by? There is no time, Obi. That's what we've learned.
Well, we are still here. Let this be our axis mundi, right? Our hub
This is
around
our place.
which the world
Yes,
spins.
this is our set, if you will, for all the things we do. It's our stage, it's our television, it's our radio station, it's our and they're all talking. They always talk when we're here, the birds.
They do.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to chime in. Give me a hug.
Thank you for everything, Obi.
Such gratitude. All right.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you next year.
You next year. And everybody else, thank you for following us.
Thank you.